Welcome back to another episode of the Nick Cage Fight Podcast, where we're too exhausted to comment on things happening in the real world, so we decided to nitpick a bunch of movies exclusively starring Nick Cage. I'm one of your hosts, Josh, joined as always by Rich and Ryan. How are we?
My legs are broken because I did not pay the ghost.
Yeah, that's the one thing I didn't quite understand is like, what are they paying the ghost? Are they paying them with, like the child asks, can we pay the ghost? Like, is there something they can pay them?
No, they don't have jobs. The whole thing is just a pro-capitalist romp with a frightening spirit.
What do you even pay a ghost with anyway? Is it sticky ectoplasm?
No, it's the bones are their money.
Yeah, damn it! I was about to make that joke. God damn it! But then you also have to kill the bonies.
Yeah, and
drink their goop so you get their sense of humor.
We're here today to talk about Pay the Ghost, a 2015 not rated film. Clocks in at an excruciating hour and 34 minutes.
I have a feeling I enjoyed this movie way more than I was talking to Ryan, and enjoyed is not the right word. Definitely intrigued. I was intrigued by this movie for the first 60 minutes.
I had a similar opinion in that it could have been a serviceable, if kind of boring and formulaic horror movie, and then they just got really sloppy with the scripting towards the end. But before we get into that, let's do housekeeping.
Actually, so real quick before we get into housekeeping, I just want to put on a disclaimer that both Josh and Ryan are kind of horror movie buffs, and I am not. Horror is a genre I don't enjoy very often. So my outlook on this movie is probably going to be very, very different than y'all's.
That's a very fair call out. So
now we can go to housekeeping. Sorry.
Housekeeping. Starting off with the director, Yuli Adel. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. This individual has directed an episode of Twin Peaks, an episode of Oz, the movie The Little Vampire, the Bader Meinhof Complex, and then a lot of TV series and made-for-TV movies, none of which I have heard of.
The only one that I really recognized other than Little Vampire is he did Last Exit to Brooklyn, which is an adaptation of a Hubert Selby Jr. novel. That's pretty good. It's okay. It's fine.
He also did a made-for-TV movie starring Alan Rickman about Rasputin that I'm probably going to watch tonight or tomorrow.
Oh, we mentioned that when we called out this film as the next on our list.
Well, yeah, because it looks interesting, and it actually won a fucking Golden Globe.
Huh. I might check that out too. I like movies about Rasputin.
Yeah, apparently Alan Rickman killed it as Rasputin.
I could see that. An interesting enough subject matter, I suppose. Moving on to the writers. So this is a screenplay based on a novella. So we have two writers, the one who did the novella and the one who did the screenplay. Up front, let's start with the screenplay writer. That was Dan Kay, who wrote Way Off Broadway, Timber Falls, and IT, not to be confused with It, I'm pretty sure. but not too much else on the CV. In fact, I think that's everything but this film from this particular writer. As far as the person who wrote the novella, that was Tim Leben, who also wrote the basis for The Silence, which was a Netflix movie about angry mutant bat things that sort of cause it's a creature feature, right? Like some mining thing breaks open a cave and a bunch of these little things come out and kill everything that moves, kind of like a Silent Place, but more monsters, smaller, and they have wings.
Am I seeing this right, that he wrote the novel The Cabin in the Woods? That's got to be something different.
I think it's something different. It's the same year that the movie came out, and I can't find any evidence that he actually had anything to do with that movie. He did write a bunch of movie novelizations, though.
Yeah, he did Kong Skull Island, which is pretty humorous, actually.
And they also wrote a short animated or stop motion called Charlie and Yip, which is about a kid who brings his pet in for show and tell. Haven't seen it, but the descriptions and the reviews weren't terrible. So
actually, I did just find something. It was the novelization of the movie Cabin in the Woods is what
that's got to be wild.
It has to be strange. I am actually kind of intrigued. I might pick that up.
I don't know if I've brought up this fun anecdote about Cabin in the Woods, because I very much enjoyed Cabin in the Woods, and my favorite bit of extra information from that is, remember the stoner character who basically semi saves the day because he smokes too much weed to be affected by all the poisons they pump at him?
Yeah.
So you notice how he's dressed kind of like Shaggy, but always in long sleeve baggy clothes?
Yeah.
The reason why is because that actor is ripped like Jesus, and they could not. He was more buff in that film than Hemsworth was, and they could not have the weird stoner character showing up their jock, so they dressed him in way oversized clothes and didn't show an inch of skin where he had muscle behind it.
Oh, that's fucking funny.
Who played him? It's been a while since I've seen that movie, but that is a horror movie that is up my alley because it's funny as shit.
It is. My favorite bit in that is the one guy who's like, I'm never gonna see a mermaid.
Yeah. But yeah, that's my favorite anecdote about that film, and I thought it was extra hilarious. I think the actor's name is Fran Kranz.
Yeah, I literally just stumbled upon it.
Yeah, if you look up some of his other stuff, like I said, he is shredded for some weird reason.
Oh, he was in The Village, one of my least favorite M. Night Shyamalan pictures.
He was in The Village.
He was in The Dark Tower.
Funny enough, I have another anecdote about The Village. So when I was in college, one of my teachers had actually worked in some capacity in film. And one of the movies that she had worked on was The Village. And if you remember Shyamalan's self-insert character in the film, he's like a park ranger.
Yeah.
His first swing at that was he wrote himself in as a redneck big rig driver. And it tested so bad with audiences. They're like, what the fuck is this? They rewrote it to be the park ranger.
I mean, like when it came out, most of the audience was like, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah.
To the whole movie. So
yeah, this is very
tracks.
true. But apparently, one part was so bad they definitely had to change it. So that's fun.
He's someone where I skip so many movies that he does that I just miss the absolute bangers.
Oh, if you haven't seen The Visit, watch The Visit. That's a good one.
I haven't seen that one. I thought I'd seen most of his stuff.
It's a little wild. It's real good.
I want to see the one he just did with fucking Batista.
Yeah, it looks good.
Oh, the Knock at the Cabin?
Yes.
Which is based on a book called Cabin at the End of the World, and none of the promotional material indicates this at all, which is kind of a shame for that poor author. So we'll give him a shout out. But what was I going to say? The last Shyamalan film I saw was Old, which is about a beach that makes you old. That is the entirety of the description of the film. I mean,
the author was Paul Tremblay. If we're going to shout him out, let's at least say his name.
Absolutely. I was waiting for somebody to look it up.
Yeah. Oh, I do got to see Old, though, because I love stupid Twilight Zone shit like that.
Yeah. Enjoy it.
I probably will.
Yeah, no, I watched it and I was like, oh, I can't believe that the entirety of this is just a beach that makes you old. That's the entire plot. They don't do much more with it than that. All right, so we can move on to the cast. I think at this point relatively safely. We've got Nick Cage, as always, top of the list, playing Mike in this film. Next up, we have Sarah Wayne Callies as Kristen. She is, you'd recognize her as from The Walking Dead, where she plays Lori. She was the nurse in Prison Break. And I had to call this out. She was in that Numbers TV series where we saw a lot of people showing up. And it bothered me so much. I finally looked into it. I'm like, what the fuck is this show? It's like another procedural crime drama, apparently, that is very much in the vein of like Law and Order, where they just rotate guest stars for the story of the week. And it's about somebody who solves crimes with math. That's it.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah, they're really only good
Right,
at
sure.
solving like white collar crimes.
And I swear to God, like this show is run for like a fucking decade. And I realized that there is a ton of, there's a whole separate from TV and movies in general. There's a whole separate side industry keeping people in work that is just crime dramas where somebody with a particular specialty is the one helping solve them.
Is it on CBS?
I don't know.
Is it
I
on TNT?
did not look further into it.
If
Like
it's on CBS, it's just 70-year-olds watching it.
you've got people who solve crimes with math. You've got people who solve crimes with bones. You've got people who solved crimes with their mental powers, right? I think that was the plot of the Mentalist show. I'm not sure. But
yeah,
that sounds
no
about right.
Columbo.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, and it was on CBS, but it was
There you
canceled
go.
after 6 seasons.
next up, we have Veronica Ferres as Hannah. She was in Crisis, Every Breath You Take, Salt and Fire, and Hector and the Search for Happiness. Really not familiar with any of those items on her CV, but I wanted to point them all
at least
out.
One of those was by that director, which may be what got her the job.
That's very possible.
She was also in Les Miserables, which is just one of my favorite musicals. Shout out Les Miserables.
The Russell Crowe one?
No, like a mini series back in like 2001.
Gotcha. I was gonna say, because like I was like, that would have hit my list. I've at least heard of that. I'm familiar with it.
I wonder if that's actually like the musical, one of the musical adaptations, or just an adaptation of the Victor Hugo novel.
I think it's an adaptation of the Victor Hugo novel. I'm about to take a look. Yes, it is not a musical, actually. It is just an adaptation.
Okay, I might actually watch that now.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the one I gotta watch. I'm not a big musical guy.
There's some good musicals, like The Happiness of the Katakuris, about this family that opens a bed and breakfast and all of their fucking guests keep dying. That's a good musical.
I'm fine. Like I'm fine with it. It's just not like it would have to be semi-foisted on me. I wouldn't go out of my way to hunt down a musical. It's just
that's fair.
They're like rom-coms for me. I wouldn't go out of my way for those either. It's just a thing. So next up, I definitely am not 100% on how to pronounce his first name, but it's Lyric.
I think it is Lyric, yeah.
Lyric Bent as Jordan. And this individual has starred in Acrimony, Saw 3, Saw 4, and my favorite entry, because it's a movie that I put on when I don't have anything else to put. It's like a comfort movie. I enjoy it very much. Four Brothers. He is a character in Four Brothers.
Good for him.
Yeah.
You got that Mark Wahlberg money.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the dude that they drop out of his apartment window and he breaks his leg. I'm fairly certain that's the character he plays. Next up, we have Lauren Beatty as Annie, who is in Bloodthirsty, Bleed With Me, and Jigsaw, another entry in the Saw series. And then next up, we have Callie Hunter as Ghost Annie. Sorry for the spoilers there. Things don't work out super well for Annie in this story. But she had a relatively interesting CV. It looks like she's primarily a dancer and was in a number of things as sort of like background characters, or some characters that have to dance or have some sort of performative element to it, including Lock and Key, Bang Bang Baby, and State Like Sleep. And I think in 2 of those 3, it's explicitly just dancer number something. So I thought that was kind of neat. And then last up, we have Susanna Hoffman as Jane, who did a lot of TV stuff that I'm not particularly familiar with. But I thought it was very funny that she also was additional crew on both Deep Impact and Licorice Pizza. Additional crew credits always interest me because I don't know what it is specifically that they're doing, and it sounds awesome.
You'd need to actually watch the credits because IMDb does not care enough to put like best boy or like key grip or any of the technical credits on there.
I think you can find that on IMDb. It just doesn't just chuck it under explicitly in their filmography stuff. But the only reason why I know that IMDb does list those technical people on particular items is because I was looking into the show numbers and I opened the additional cast and realized it was that Chrome was struggling to pull in all the actors who had been in a one-off episode of it. So I scrolled all the way to the bottom and saw all the technical people listed that worked on the show.
So I got an answer. Apparently she was part of the Loop group for Deep Impact and Licorice Pizza. And what that is it's a group of actors who basically get into a recording booth and create like fucking crowd scene sound.
That's
Huh.
all. I would be great at making crowd scene sounds. How do you get
They're-
into that?
They're
I
like
don't
the
know.
gang vocals in your favorite hardcore band's album.
And honestly, that's gonna wrap up housekeeping for me.
So one thing I want to mention is so this movie was done by Voltage Pictures, which gave me hope because do we know what other Nick Cage movie we already watched that was done by Voltage Pictures? I know Ryan does.
I recognize that janky ass intro. This is a Between Worlds production company.
Hell
Oh shit.
yeah. So then I just started looking at the movies they've done and like they are all over the place with like really good movies and just like direct to DVD bullshit like this.
Do we know
Like-
what the story is with Voltage Pictures? Like, what's their deal?
So it was a sort of because I actually once I saw that Voltage Pictures did this, I was like, okay, are they just like one of these studios that just pushes out like 11 movies a year and hope that one hits? And the answer is sort of yes. It started in 2005 and it was made to fund their first movie, which was actually The Hurt Locker.
Wait, they made the fucking Hurt Locker?
That was the first movie that Voltage Pictures like produced.
They have also apparently made a movie called Colossal, which I liked a lot with Anne Hathaway, where she realizes that she's controlling a fucking like
Colossal
kaiju.
fucks. It's so good.
It's so good.
I
Um,
haven't seen that. I have to put that on my list now.
It's very good. It's her and Jason Sudeikis. So it's just Ted Lasso being an asshole. It's the weirdest thing. They also did Dallas Buyers Club.
That was a pretty good movie. I remember watching that whenever that there was like Oscar hype for it. And I-
Right. I always just assumed it was like an A24 movie. Like it kind of read like that to me.
Well, I mean, A24 is just a distributor. They don't actually do any production, from what I understand.
Oh, okay. I for some reason I thought that they did that. I don't know.
They might be. I haven't checked in a while, but the last time someone was like A24 Pictures, like I'm pretty sure they just like release movies. They don't actually make them.
Yeah, but
they-
the ones they pick up are they have a certain. They reminds me of the back when Lionsgate was young. I watched
Mhm.
most of the shit that Lionsgate put out because they did some weird shit. As Rich mentioned, myself and Ryan are kind of into horror, and they. I remember. I'm almost positive. I might be wrong and embarrass myself, but I'm fairly certain they're the ones that did High Tension, which was a really weird French horror film.
Oh, I was gonna say, is that the French New Extremity movie? That movie fucked me
Yeah.
up hard. Almost as bad
I
as
saw that in
Martyrs.
fucking theaters, and I was like,
Oh.
"What the shit?"
That had to have been a rough hang watching that with other people around.
It was pretty wild. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, now they also did The Cobbler, that
Oh,
weird
the
Adam Sandler movie.
the Adam Sandler movie that sucks.
Yeah, but they also
Wait,
did
that
a
doesn't really
movie-
narrow it down.
Yeah, look, okay, I can count on one hand Adam Sandler movies that don't suck, and it's Uncut Gems, The Hustler, not The Hustler. I'm thinking, oh my god,
We're
what?
thinking of Paul Newman.
I'm thinking of Paul Newman. Hustle is what I'm thinking of. The basketball movie. He does good basketball movies, really.
Okay, that's fair. There's some basketball stuff in Uncut Gems. He's also pretty good in Punch Drunk Love.
Yeah, and Happy Gilmore is still a banger. This company also did a movie called Navy SEALs versus Zombies,
Oh shit, that's going on my list right now.
where like I've seen pro wrestlers versus zombies, and if it's as bad as that, I need to watch it.
Anything versus zombies, you know you're gonna get some kind of campy fun out of it. It's probably gonna be terrible, but
But yeah, Okay, I just wanted to bring that up that I saw the Voltage Pictures and kind of got excited.
yeah, unfortunate in this particular case.
All right, so let's find out how to pay the ghost, I guess.
Yeah, jumping directly into the plot from here. So the scene opens with what we later find out is a flashback scene, right? And it's we get a view of a vaguely witchy table. Also, by the way, let's just address this right now. Now, I don't know anything about paganism specifically as a observable sort of religion or practice or whatever, but I like that they picked one of, at least in modern times, most benign bits of symbolism to make the story center around. It's just the full moon with two crescent moons with the points facing out on either side of the full moon. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I see that on shit that like Wine Mom's coffee mugs and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
It seems in like absurdly benign. I don't know if just is whatchamacallit public domain shit that they could get away with or what the deal was, but that kind of cracked me up. So we see this symbol on a table that's littered with like corn husk dolls or straw dolls. I think they were corn husk dolls. And there's several children hiding in what is obviously a basement, and you can hear kind of a scuffle going on upstairs, like a woman screaming, some boots stomping and stuff like that. And one of the kids yells out "mother" before one of their siblings clamps a hand over their mouth, and then I think it's an axe like busts through the wood door leading down into the basement. And then we cut to a much more modern looking bedroom with a boy in bed who it looks like he's woken up in the middle of the night and gets up and goes to his window. Doesn't see anything when he turns back into the room. Sort of like a ghostly sort of, not ghostly, a shadow sort of passes over the moonlight streaming in through his window, and we get some audio cues of a weird sighing sound. And he goes to wake up his mom and say, you know, he saw something scary outside his window. She dismisses it as a nightmare, and he climbs into bed with her. So relatively straightforward opening with a kid seeing creepy shit and parents dismissing it. Let this be a lesson to any parents listening. If your kid says they saw some creepy stuff, it's definitely a ghost and not an overactive child's imagination. Ignore that to your own peril. So then we cut to Nick Cage's character. This is the first look that we get at him. I will say that he has some pretty nice sideburns in this. Nick Cage, when he has sideburns, they always are pretty nice sideburns, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, this is a good hair. This is a good hair, Cage.
Yeah.
I wasn't really sold on it outside of the sideburns. I think it's pretty standard. Like, it's the same haircut as Knowing.
Okay, good to me is standard. Like, it's not like, you know, again, it's not the Holy Grail. It's not Sorcerer's Apprentice.
That's very fair.
It's fine. It's like it's a step above Snake Eyes.
I don't know if I would necessarily put it there, but we'll see. My radar might be a little bit off. We're coming off of Season of the Witch, in which his hair was pretty fantastic.
That was good
great.
hair. Yeah.
That was
good
great
hair.
Cage hair. Yeah,
good hair. So we get our first glimpse at Mike Cage's character in this, and he's working in some library, and this man needs to learn to charge his fucking phone. It's like seeing people's screenshots on Twitter, and their phones are at like 8%. Like, what are you doing? Don't get caught with your phone dead in modern society. You will likely die, at least.
Yeah, you'll get murdered.
Yeah.
Once your phone dies, you're susceptible to anything.
Almost assuredly. In modern horror movies, it's a prerequisite. If your phone is about to die, bad shit's about to happen. Guaranteed. So it's obviously very late. He gets a cab back home and carries his son back to his own bed and kisses him goodnight. The kid wakes up. Kid's name is Charlie, by the way. I call him Kid for half of my notes. And Charlie is very interested in what the plan is for Halloween, which is the next day, and requests that his dad check outside his window because he saw something earlier. You know, standard, reassuring your kid before bed stuff. And we cut relatively quickly to the next day, where we get some information on what Mike does for work. It appears he teaches some type of literature course at a college. It doesn't get too much more involved than that, but he's giving a reading to the class that's very much in the vein of it being Halloween and spooky stuff. And by the way, his dramatic reading for the class actually relatively well delivered, in my opinion.
Yeah, I thought so. He's definitely going in on the reading, which I enjoyed that.
So I may have missed something. Is it ever actually stated what he's a professor of? I assume maybe folklore at the beginning, but he starts talking about Sleepy Hollow at later in the film, and I think it might be like a comparative literature course or something like that.
It never says. But I kind of assumed that it was probably some sort of like occult studies, just because of the woman who he's a colleague of just knowing all about like, witches and ghosts and all this shit.
So that's extra funny to me that was the read that you guys got, because from what I got from it is that he's a relatively straightforward literature professor, and his friend and teacher is a straight history professor, local
or
history.
folklorist. I think she probably
Okay.
falls more into folklorist because she's not really studying straight history. It seems to be belief systems is really what her focus seems to be, based on the information that she passes on in reference to. We'll get into it when we actually get into her monologue about the goddess, because she completely misinterprets that symbol, which is actually the three goddesses in one. It's supposed to represent the mother, the maiden, and the crone.
From Game of Thrones.
Yeah, sure.
I just wanted to see everybody look angry on camera real
But
quick.
specifically, if we're referring to the Celtic mother, maiden, crone, triple goddess, there's like one of these in every major pagan religion. It would be the Morrigan, and it's never mentioned by name, and she never mentions that there's supposed to be three goddesses in one. So like it's a little wonky.
Yeah, I'm
So
gonna
it's a trinity.
Yeah, basically, yeah, it's like the Holy Trinity, but lit for ladies. The Holy
Christianity
Trinity for
borrowed
her.
a lot of shit from paganism in general.
Well, yeah.
Sun worship, all the whole nine yards.
But no, I'm gonna contest your belief of what she's teaching as we go on, and then we'll address that scene when we get to it, and let the listeners decide who's correct on that one. So
I don't think the movie's smart enough to actually make a statement.
I will say this up front. It absolutely does not fucking matter what either of these people teach in this college. 100%. So back at home, the kid is dressed as a pirate for Halloween. I was annoyed that they painted on his eye patch instead of getting an actual fucking $1.25 eye patch.
I thought it was funny as shit. I let it slide just because having that kid with the painted on eye patch the whole movie was pretty fucking funny.
It was funny, but it was the reason why it was funny to me is because it seems so fucking out of place. It's the cheapest accessory you can get. It is included in most prepackaged pirate costumes. I don't know how they fucking missed it.
You can make it out of fucking construction paper.
Yes.
Yeah, like it's not hard. I don't know.
So the kid was looking forward to carving a pumpkin when his dad got home, but he's basically just scooting around the house while mom and grandma are doing mom and grandma stuff. That's the only way I can describe it. Somebody's like pouring filtered water. Somebody's, I think, chopping vegetables. It's very standard stuff. But we also see that the kid Charlie has drawn a really like creepy cartoon figure of what he saw outside his window. And then we cut to Mike at work, and he's gotten a letter in his little inbox, and he looks at it and seems kind of relieved, and then goes and talks to his friend Hannah, who we've mentioned. This is the other teacher lady, and we learn what he was nervous about and why he was working super late is he was applying for tenure, and the letter is letting him know that he has gotten tenure at this university. So
wait, Josh, you know what I'm nervous about?
What are you nervous about?
The ever creeping flow of capitalism into our lives with these ads of services and products.
Oh, I have a great
that we
medication
wouldn't
I'm on
get
that can help with
tenure
that.
for our podcast, which is something that's very normal to worry about.
Yeah, I'm very worried about getting tenure for this podcast. Like, what is it? Tenure is what, 5 years? We got like another.
I thought it was 10.
I think it depends on the state. I know in New York it's 5 or 4. It's either 4 or 5. Fuck it. Whatever.
Well, what we need is a podcasting university, and then then we can worry about getting tenure there.
Yeah, but not a real university. Like, could it be like a Trump university where like we just scam everybody?
Oh, I'm sorry. If you're listening to this far enough in the future and there is a podcasting university of some sort, I assure you it is a scam.
Oh,
Promise.
100%.
Promise you. Don't enroll. So yeah, listen to these ads about fucking fake university that's going to give you a worthless degree for a lot of money.
Wait, but before you do that, you can enroll in our Patreon, which is www.patreon.com/NickCageFight, where we give you credits in classes such as Nick Cage 101. I don't have a way to get out of this joke. Josh,
Fuck it.
please stop me.
We will issue you a degree. It's not accredited. You can't transfer any of your credits to other universities.
Right, but it's just as good as a degree from BYU.
Okay. Yeah, no. We stand by that. Don't sue us.
or Liberty, I guess.
Oh shit, I actually know a couple of people who graduated from there.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
I know it is.
They probably don't know what a penis is.
Yeah, no, I keep sending them messages on LinkedIn. None of them want to respond.
Damn. Well,
All right.
LinkedIn is the devil, and here's some of his biddings. I really hope the algorithm reads this and like puts in a BYU ad.
Dude, we are gonna get sued by the Mormons so fast, dude.
Well, what's the other one?
What are they gonna do about it? Marrying other wives?
Oh my god. Yeah, we're definitely getting sued.
Fucking
Yeah,
I ain't getting sued by nobody that wears no special underwear.
yeah. What they're gonna be polyamorous, but in the worst way possible.
The most oppressive way possible, for sure.
Yeah, like they're not even fun about it. What's the other college? It's like there's BYU, there's Liberty, and there's like another crazy Christian college. And I just
Bob Jones? Does Bob Jones still have a university?
Yes, Bob Jones.
Ugh.
Bob Jones. Does that still exist? I have to look it up now. I'm sorry, dear listener, but this is important.
It is important. And if if the name like Liberty and Bob Jones University has brought up some childhood traumas, I 100% sympathize with you.
Oh, check it out. They finally got accredited.
Are they really? That's
wait a
the
minute.
worst thing you could have said.
Hang on. It just says on their website they're accredited. That does not mean anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could just say that you're accredited, I guess.
Yeah, so academics, blah blah blah, fine arts, science. They don't have a science school.
Well,
Bob Jones Sr. was leery of academic accreditation almost from the founding of the college. So
it seems like they did get accreditation in 2017. The world sucks.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awful. I need to talk more about this bad movie to wash the taste of that out of my mouth. So Anna is apparently the one who's recommended Mike for tenure. And one of the reasons why I think she is a teacher of history is because during this conversation, she is looking at a piece from an old wooden ship that has to do with people who originally like landed and in this area and so on and so forth. So that's straight history as opposed to
okay, that's fair.
curvy folklore history,
as opposed to gay history.
Yeah. So Mike is rushing home to celebrate Halloween with his family, but he's having some severe difficulties getting a cab, and clock runs out on him. So mom takes Charlie trick-or-treating. While they're out and about, Charlie sees a vulture on top of a building, which seems a little bit out of place for a real urban city landscape.
Yeah, for New York, probably shouldn't be there.
Yeah,
I'm fairly certain that's a California condor, which is very inappropriate for that area.
So when Mike gets home, he sees a note on the door saying that they couldn't wait any longer and they've gone trick-or-treating. But when Kristen and Charlie get home from trick-or-treating, Mike greets them at the door dressed as a cowboy. Charlie doesn't really want his night to end. You know, dad's here. Let's have some fun. He wants to go to this carnival that's being held on the street. And Mike, talks Kristen around into letting him take Charlie there for just a couple of minutes, so on and so forth. He tells her about getting tenure and then says the famous last words in any sort of horror movie, especially this one. He says, everything's going to be better now. Dad and Charlie then head to the carnival. Charlie's recording most of their journey with this little digital camcorder. And while they're wandering around, Charlie sees this weird, witchy looking monster staring and pointing at him from the entrance to an alleyway. But nobody else seems to notice this.
Do you find it weird that we watched 2 witch movies in a row?
Yeah, maybe. But to be fair, the title was misleading.
That is very true.
Season of the Witch was appropriately titled. we saw Seasons, and there was definitely a witch involved. This is called Pay the Ghost, and I didn't see much monetary exchange except in the very next scene I'm about to talk about.
Yeah, there was not a
And-
whole lot of transactions in this.
Yeah, no, and not quite a ghost. I'm gonna quibble with the ghost. Maybe technically a ghost, but we're gonna get into. I'm going to get into at least the supernatural elements that are supposedly plaguing our main characters in this, because the movie can't seem to decide what the fuck it wants it to be. So Mike and Charlie go to get ice cream, and
And he pays, but not a ghost.
yeah, he pays an ice cream man, which is not the ghost. But this is the scene where we get the title of the movie said for the first time in the course of the film. They're gonna say it like 500 fucking more times from here, but this is special because it's the first. So while they're standing at the ice cream vehicle, ice cream van, what the fuck, the ice cream truck, Jesus.
I was gonna say ice cream truck, but I couldn't remember if it was all fucked up or anything like that. It could have been an ice cream rickshaw. I don't know.
I very, very much lost that word for a minute there. Anyway, so Charlie asks Mike if they can pay the ghost. That's it. That's the title of the movie. We can pack it up and go home. Mike lets go of Charlie's hand for literally a split second to hand money to the ice cream truck driver,
Who is not a
and-
ghost, which I feel like that's a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a missed opportunity. They could have made him a ghost, and then like, I don't know, it gets a little bit more confusing. I feel like there was an opportunity there and they missed it.
No, this was just a guy in a comical bow tie, if I'm remembering correctly.
I thought it was a clown.
Yeah, but I don't think his face was painted. I think he just had like a clown suit with a bow tie and a completely plain face, which is a weird lack of commitment on Halloween, in my opinion. But
Oh yeah.
what are you gonna do?
He probably just didn't want to submit the painted eggshell to the clown museum to get his clown face mask trademarked, which is something that clowns have to do.
That is clown lore I was not aware of.
Yeah, no, there's like a museum that just has a bunch of eggshells with every clown who has, registered as an official clown's their face paint. It's painted on an egg.
And that works as a legal copyright in the United
Apparently,
States
yeah.
of America. That's absurd. I'm gonna look into this and just start stealing famous clowns' makeups.
Oh, prepare to get sued.
What are they? They're just gonna send their clown lawyers after me?
Look, if I'm not getting sued by a Mormon, I'm not getting sued by a clown.
We cut to 6 months later where
Where I'm getting sued by a Mormon clown.
That's the best case scenario.
We ultra offended one specific person. But yeah, so very, very brief lack of hand holding on Mike's part, and when he turns around, Charlie is gone. Cue frantic search, running through the carnival, not finding him, running back to the ice cream truck, finding the pirate hat on the ground by the ice cream truck, and eventually a police officer takes note of the man acting like a crazy person, and he explains what's going on, and the cop is like, well, you live near here, maybe you just went home. So Mike runs home.
Good copping.
Yeah. He's like, that sounds like a you problem, maybe you should just fucking leave.
And like
Not far
this
from the
this
cop.
cop looks like the most generic overweight donut munching cop like in any TV show.
Oh, it's the Nick Mullen joke. It's like, if we abolish police officers, who's gonna come to you when your kid's missing and just go, I don't know, maybe he went home, go look. So Mike runs back into the house shouting for Charlie, which I think is a pretty jarring way for Kristen to find out that their kid is missing. That's just me. But they both leave to go frantically search the carnival together. We get another shot of the fucking vulture. I'm going to spoil it for you now. I don't know what the fucking significance of the vultures are.
Zero idea. They do not go into it at all.
Doesn't reference it at all.
They're there. They're clearly creepy. It's a vulture.
They signify the presence or activity of this entity that is the primary antagonist of the film, but it is never remarked upon really at all. So at this point, we cut to Mike being interviewed by a detective, takes his details, tells him to go home to be with his wife. At home, Kristen is also wrapping up an interview with detectives, and then they leave the unhappy couple at home, and Kristen starts sort of like disassociatively making Charlie's lunch for school the next day. Flinches away from Mike's touch. Very apparent that she blames Mike wholeheartedly for the situation they find themselves in, which fair enough, I suppose. Mike collapses sobbing in the kitchen after Kristen runs away, and later that night, Mike is laying on the couch. I think that's definitely you're in the doghouse moment if you lose your only child.
Yeah, I think that when she starts referring to the child as my son and not our son, you kind of fucked up.
Yeah, he's like, it's your son when I lose him at a carnival for adults.
It's our son. We got to pay the tuition.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So which one is it?
So in the middle of the night, Mike gets up from the couch, trying to investigate the sounds of footsteps in the house. He follows the sounds up to the window in Charlie's bedroom, and when he turns around, he sees a pale-looking Charlie is standing there. Mike seems excited that Charlie is home, but Charlie spouts some cryptic shit about seeing something at the window. Charlie prompts Mike to look out the window twice, and on the second look, Mike sees a massive shadow spreading down the street, followed by a freaky face jump scare. This is the start of this movie's favorite way of participating in the horror genre, which is the jump scares.
Yeah,
It
that's
should
all
get a
it
participation trophy.
It's the main crutch of this film. I'm not a big fan of it specifically.
I hate jump scares. It just makes me feel antsy. This is why I don't tend to watch these types of movies, is I can't enjoy it. It's just I'm waiting for the next creepy thing to jump out at me.
Yeah, the best horror movies are more about atmosphere than the big spooky jump scare that's too loud. Although they can work occasionally.
Yeah,
I do like the
give me
jump...
one or two. I don't need 17.
I like a fake out jump scare, and then like shortly after, when you're feeling safe, they throw a real one in there. That's always a good one, but like usually they suck shit.
Yeah, like when they're like looking through the house for the noise and like a cat jumps out and they're like, oh, okay. And then they turn around and get pinned to the wall by a butcher knife.
Yeah, exactly. I mean? Shit like that.
It's a misdirection. It's defying expectations. It's classic. I don't think jump scares by themselves are hawkish or hacky necessarily. But if that's if all you're doing is throwing a scary face at me, and you do that 15 times in a film, and that's really the only contributing factor to make it considered a horror, that's bad horror.
You need restraint. Like the greatest video game jump scare of all time was when that dog jumps through the window in Resident Evil 1. And that shit still gets me to this day because they don't do that the whole game.
Yeah, that's pretty classic.
Yeah, so, no disagreements.
So after the jump scare, Mike is startled awake. It was a nightmare. Also, it's a year later. Also, he's in a fucking apartment and no longer in the house that he shared with his wife. lot of information is crammed into this one specific scene. I give him credit for just laying out for us that it's a year later, because they could have spoon-fed all of it if they wanted to. And given how the rest of the movie plays out, I'm kind of surprised that they didn't. Like 1 year later, Kristen has kicked Mike out of the house.
Yeah, it just turns into like Final Fantasy 12 when it hits you with all the exposition like an hour into the game.
Yeah.
Yes. 12's so good. I love doing little programming fucking exercises so that I can beat guys real good.
Oh, I love Final Fantasy 12, but like it does hit you like you play the game for an hour and then it stops for 10 minutes so it can explain to you exactly what is happening.
So we find ourselves 3 days before Halloween, and Mike is in a tiny apartment with a Charlie Kelly style conspiracy board covering one wall, which, well, I mean, like,
how else is he going to find Pepe Sylvia?
It's yarn and pictures and maps and just like red marker on it. They went really classic with it. So he leaves his apartment to tack up missing child posters. We get a shot of Kristen, who appears to be working from home, but in Charlie's old room, which has not been changed at all. She gets a call from Mike and ignores it. I do like the lack of attention to detail in this film, in that Mike calls her, they're estranged, but she has never updated the photo or removed the photo from him in the contacts. So it's like him and her and Charlie all smiling in a family photo.
I didn't think there was a lack of detail. I thought that was a mother who couldn't move on, and that photo reminded her of like a better time. Maybe I'm giving this movie too much credit. I probably am.
I'm going to tell you why I think you are, because in a later scene, Mike is flipping through photos on what is clearly an iPhone. And as he's scrolling through photos, it still says 45 of 45 as he keeps scrolling through multiple different pictures.
All right.
I don't even know how they did that. It feels like you'd have to have purposely fucked that up, and it was more work than just doing it regularly.
Well, it's hard to photograph like screens like that, so it's probably a computer generated graphic that they were just too lazy to actually do that little bit of detail work for.
It's just the angle of this shot, it's so obvious when it happens. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
So she ignores the call from Mike. Cut to Mike teaching class again. This is the scene where he's talking about Sleepy Hollow explicitly.
Class size much smaller, it seems.
Yeah, he's not. Yeah, it looked, it almost, I wondered if they were like pushing to the like he somehow fucked up tenure, which is supposed to be impossible. I think that's supposed to be the point of tenure, because it almost looks like a high school classroom.
Right. I had thought that it was supposed to say that like all the life has been like sucked out of him, that like this thing that he used to really enjoy doing doesn't bring him joy anymore, and therefore kids aren't taking his class as much.
Well, I mean, they do some work to imply that, right? So right after he finishes with his class, he meets with Hannah for coffee, and we get a sense of his mental state, because he seems to refuse to accept that his son is dead, and says that he's going to continue doing exactly what he's doing right now until he finds out what happens. And he says specifically, explicitly, I can't motivate myself. I can't motivate my students. And Hannah's like, do you want to take another leave of absence? And he's like, no. So clearly, his academic fervor has certainly gone down a fair amount since, Charlie got kidnapped by a ghost due to lack of payment. Repossessed. Child repossession, I think, is what's going on here.
Yeah, that ghost just got the tow truck, and
you're behind on payments. Got to take your kid.
Listen, you're behind on ghost bills. That's it. That's a joke. Sorry.
So after this meeting for coffee, Mike goes to the police station. It is apparent this is a usual thing for him. And he goes and basically just harasses the detective for not finding his kid. It's fair. Both of them make some fair points, but I'm going to side with the consumer on this one, which is Mike just being like, do your fucking job. Find my kid. So while hanging up more missing child posters, something flies by Mike's head and strikes the wall, and it's the dart from the exact same style dart from Charlie's toy musket, or
which makes
pistol.
zero sense even in the context of this film, because you know what, fuck it, I'm not even going to go into we'll talk about it at the end, because God, this fucking movie.
Yeah. I mean, if you've listened to enough of our episodes, I'm a stickler for the narrative rules that you get to set for yourself when you write shit. So when you set narrative rules and you ignore them, I get cranky, because you did it to yourself, man. That's you. You did that. Drives me fucking nuts. Anyway, when he turns around after, picking up this dart, he believes that he sees Charlie in the window of a bus. I mean, we see Charlie in the window of the bus. Again, remember, it's a year later. I thought it was a little funny that Mike, full belief that, his missing kid who's been missing for a year is on this bus and looks exactly like he did.
And still has the painted on.
Yep.
That was the first thing. I'm just like, come on, you're smarter than this. You are a college professor. you can't think that the kidnappers didn't bathe this kid at least once, or that ink would just come off naturally.
It's the Zoolander joke. It's like, have you ever thought maybe you suffered a very severe trauma and you definitely have PTSD and some of this might be in your mind? It's like, and it was. So Mike chases the bus all the way down, storms onto it, calling out for Charlie, doesn't find him. I love that we get a shot of every single person on the bus looking at him like, get a load of this fucking weirdo. It was unnecessary, but I appreciated the hell out of it. Then we get another shot of a vulture, which Mike actually sees this time. Up till now, only Charlie had been seeing the vultures. And Mike investigates the lot that the vulture flew into. And we see there's 3 vultures on a dumpster that look like they're ripping at meat of some sort. This is not interesting enough for Mike to investigate any further. I would check out what strange meat they're eating out of the dumpster of an abandoned lot in, a city. But
Probably a good call.
yeah, but Mike is much more interested in graffiti that he sees on the side of the building that says "Pay the Ghost." So he goes inside of this weird abandoned seeming building that's filled with graffiti. We get a scary dog jump scare at this point. There's going to be a lot of these, and I wrote them all down because I was frustrated by them using this trope as a crutch throughout the course of the film. So you're going to get a full list of the jump scares. Also, I don't know what the fuck is up with the architecture of this building, because he pulls aside like a corrugated aluminum panel, enters a building that looks like a warehouse industrial building that's been abandoned, goes down a flight of steps, and appears to be like in what looks like maybe an abandoned subway area or something like that.
It looks like Sector 6 in fucking Final Fantasy 7. We're doing a lot of Final Fantasy references on this podcast today.
Well,
Sorry,
there are
people
so
who
many
haven't
of them.
played
We
Final
cover
Fantasy.
so many bases.
You're narrowcasting to me and me alone.
So when Mike makes it to the bottom of, again, this building, there's a homeless encampment that apparently has enough ventilation for trash can fires. Again, the architecture is confusing me here, but I'll try my best to move on. And he's trying to ask questions of homeless people. Everybody's ignoring him, which I think is very fair. And there is he's trying to ask people specifically about the Pay the Ghost graffiti. A weird high-pitched like whine or moan sound goes up, and a strange, maybe blind, white old homeless guy with dreadlocks yells for everybody to cover their fires, which they do.
So I forgot to shout this dude out in housekeeping. I was going to mention him. His name's Stephen McHattie. He plays Hollis Mason in the Watchmen movie, but more importantly, he's in a good horror movie called Pontypool about a word virus.
I fucking love Pontypool.
He's the main guy in Pontypool. I
thought that jawline looked really fucking familiar, but I couldn't place him. Wow, goddamn, he was in Watchmen and Pontypool. He definitely, that's full on my bad.
He was also in some other stuff, in like Beverly Hills Cop 3, History of Violence. He's been in a shit ton of movies. He was in Basketball.
Who was he in Basketball?
The narrator.
No shit.
Yeah.
All right, full on my bad. And Ryan, thank you for correcting us on that one, because that was an egregious error on my part. That being said, let's get back to the point that he has dreadlocks and sunglasses in this film, and I don't know if there's a technical term for it, but the tapping stick that blind people use. But in this scene, it is very difficult to tell if he's blind. Thankfully, the movie does clarify for this for us later on. But anyway, after the whining, moaning sound passes, everybody, takes the covers off the fires, and the old guy says they don't know what the whale is, but it always happens around Halloween. Now, later on, we're going to find out him saying that they don't know what this is, or at least he doesn't know what this is a fucking lie. But we'll get to that when we get to that. When asked about what Pay the Ghost means, the old guy tells Mike to follow him. I can't remember if it's a torch or a lantern or a fucking flashlight in this scene, but the old guy is carrying it. Again, remember, he's fucking blind. And he leads Mike to a wall that has like "Pay the Ghost" written all over it. Like leads him to it and like lifts up the light to illuminate it so you can see all the writing on it. And in my notes specifically right here, I'm like, is this guy fucking blind or what? It's impossible to tell in this scene.
He's
Also,
just fucking with us.
who was graffitiing "Pay the Ghost" everywhere?
It
Probably
makes
the ghost.
yeah, it's fucking viral marketing for your ghost business. Hashtag pay the ghost. Just putting stickers up in every bodega. Oh, also we get an over the shoulder monster face jump scare here. Fucking that's 3 in the last 15 minutes of me talking describing these things.
Yeah.
Not a fan. So Mike is waiting outside him and Kristen's home when she arrives back from wherever she was at the time. She tries to avoid talking to him, but he talks her around to getting coffee with him. Tells her about the graffiti that he saw and that Charlie specifically said that phrase to him the night that he disappeared. The supernatural talk gets way too much for Kristen relatively quickly, and she leaves. And when he stops her on the street, she is very not shy about blaming Mike explicitly for losing Charlie. And Mike goes back home where he rewatches footage from the night Charlie disappeared that Charlie recorded on a little digital camcorder. He's watching it on the camcorder, which is a little bit weird. I think the only reason for that is the setup for the very next bit that happens. When he finishes watching the footage, he puts the camera down and goes to his conspiracy wall, and behind him, the view screen of the camcorder flickers back on. Spooky. When Mike goes to look at it, he sees grainy footage of what looks like a little old cottage. The scene zooms in until he sees what appears to be a bunch of children in costumes, and then it cuts off again.
Spooky stuff.
Yeah, generic spooky stuff, but I'll give him fucking credit for making an attempt at the atmosphere instead of just the camera screen flickering on and there just being a monster face there for a second to try and jump scare us again.
Yeah, at least it's like story information.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think that's a good spot to stop episode 1 of this review, because we talked a fair bit on this and we rabbit trailed a bit, and from here on out, once the rules of the movie are made more clear in part 2, it's going to be very aggravating, and I'm going to nitpick at it to death, and you're going to hear us complaining a whole bunch. So that'll be a fun second episode, I think. What do you
That'll
guys
be
think?
fun for you.
A lot of complaining. It's going to be just like a family reunion for me.
Ryan, why aren't you married yet?
That's the noise I make when my family asks me questions, so they stop asking me questions.
Well, the next time they ask you that, just tell them, because pay the ghost.
Because the
Don't
film Pay the
elaborate.
Ghost made me infertile.
I love the implication that fertility is the primary thing these days. While you're waiting for the next episode to drop, feel free to interact with us on social media. You can find us on Twitter at cagefight_pod. Tell us who your favorite ghost to pay is.
Mine's Casper.
There you go. He's friendly, he deserves the money. That's ethical consumption.
Yeah, mine is Jeffrey Rush from the first Pirates of the Caribbean.
There you go. I was going to go with Moloch personally, but I don't think that's a ghost so much as a malevolent deity of some sort. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I think that's just a pre-Christian god you're talking about there.
One of the originals.
Also, if you're an uncle, and only if you're an uncle, check us out on Facebook. But only if you're an uncle, and you can't have a kid. You're
But
not allowed to have a kid.
Specifically, if you're an Uncle Ghost.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. Uncle Ghost, please follow us. That would be huge for our branding.
But also, again, patreon.com/NickCageFight. You can pay us instead of paying the ghost. Actually, you can pay us and we'll pay the ghost for you. And you'll also get all these episodes with no ads, as well as Patreon episodes where we will be reviewing The Wrestler soon.
Very shortly. I do like the... Sorry. I was going to say, I do like the idea of us being the middlemen for paying ghosts. It's like, do you have to pay the ghost, but you hate the feel of ectoplasm against your skin? Subscribe to our Patreon. We'll pay the ghost for you. You never have to interact with the ghost. We'll do that on your behalf.
Yeah, as far as you know, ghosts don't exist, but we know that they're there, and they
Keep your
demand
kids from
payment.
getting kidnapped, man.
Yeah, this ghost takes 3 a year. Are you next?
Yeah, there you go. Pay the Ghost, part 1. As always, listener, we appreciate you.